Greetings and salutations. This is your host, Catalyst Jost, and I'm here to give you a quick disclaimer before the episode begins. Now, at the time of recording this would have been quarter two of 2024, and unfortunately, due to technical difficulties and certain subscriptions and suppliers in terms of posting the podcast had ran out. I wanted to give a quick notice that at the end, as always, for every podcast, I always give the link to Life on Saturn Productions social media. Since then, the names currently for the YouTube and Instagram are Life on Saturn Comics. So please go check them out. And for my guest here, Pete Thron, for any listeners who are true crime fans, please go to Amazon and look up Pete Thron. You will not be disappointed by some of his works like End of Tour, One Under, Fear City Cop, and of course, there is his beloved The Everlasting Chains. Quite a lineup, and this man does not disappoint. Heck, during this whole 1 hour 45 conversation, I do probably roughly 25% of the talking. So that should give you a clear indicator. So please enjoy this episode, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. If you are listening to this right now, asking yourself, what do the questions of the universe hold? Then we must sadly tell you, we got nothing. And greetings and salutations, my psychedelic children, my beautiful souls, and welcome once again to the expose in the art of conversation. We've got nothing. I am your host, Catalyst Jost. It is currently Wednesday, the 29th, 2023, and I am coming at you once again from the beautiful sunshine wasteland of Central Florida, here today with a very unique guest. He is best-selling author. He is former NYPD with such a harrowing backstory and lore. Please help me welcome author Pete Thron. How do you do, sir?
How you doing? Nice to be on the show.
Gosh. How's the weather up top? Is it has it gotten warmer yet?
It's actually a little warmer today. It was warmer yesterday. Like back and forth. Cold, not really hot, but warm. A lot of rain and then nice out. It's supposed to get more rain this coming week.
Yeah, what is it? I'm originally from upstate, so I know how a lot of the weather can just be someone with bipolar mood swings at times, especially the further up you go into the mountains. That's just something and a half.
Cold, right?
Oh my Lord, don't get me started. Now, I did a little bit of research and some of my homework before conducting this interview. So, before anything else, I gotta ask, and especially after everything you've been through, what inspired you in the first place to be an officer of the law?
When I was young, I was in pursuit of trying to become a Major League Baseball player. I was better than average ball player, and I had gotten a scholarship to Dowling College to play baseball there, and my coach had got me a walk-on tryout with the Mariners when they were an expansion team. And I did well enough to get a contract, but I was only 18, and I didn't understand all the wording of the contract itself because it was pages and pages. So I called my coach up, and he got on the phone with team and the manager, and he asked him to let me go back up to Long Island for the weekend, and then he would fly back down with me. He would represent me as my agent.
Mm-hmm.
I went back up to Long Island. We were actually in a tournament called the Knickerbocker tournament, and we made the finals. I had a very good tournament, and in the final game, I was in left field going for a fly ball and actually smashed into the fence, and I messed up my elbow and my throwing arm, and that pretty much ended my career.
Mm-hmm.
So I took my second thing that I wanted to do in life was be a police officer. I took the test when I was 21, and by 22 I was in the academy.
Amazing. Looking at your record, and please confirm or deny any of this from the brief information I was able to find about you online. You have made about a little more than 500 solo arrests, and you have assisted with thousands of others. This is true, right?
Yes, actually, from what I had somebody help me with the math of how many arrests I did have. It was actually over 700 solo arrests.
Oh my.
I said over 1,000 others.
Wow, quite an impressive record. Now tell me, out of these many arrests that you made, is there any particular one that like sticks out to memory, like in terms of a story?
That's a hard question. I'd have to say some of my bigger drug collars and my gun collars. One of my drug collars, actually, I was in uniform at the time, and I arrested a gentleman that was dealing in a park area on 133rd Street in Park Avenue. And he was about 1,000 feet away from a school. I arrested him for 50 bags of crack cocaine.
Oh, Jesus.
And at that time, crack cocaine usually came in bottles, little bottles.
Mm-hmm.
He had it in little Ziploc bags they were blue. And I took him in. He had actually been arrested 3 days earlier, and somehow he got out. So I told him, you're going to have a really big problem. You're facing some serious time. You really shouldn't start giving people up. I was able to flip him. Flipping is when you get somebody to talk.
Mm-hmm.
I called over to a friend of mine that was with ATF, and he was working with the anti-crime unit, who was in plain clothes. But he took a little liking to me because he was seeing that I was making a lot of arrests where I was able to get search warrants from the information that my informants were giving me. And I called him down. He came down to the station house, and we actually got the case to go federally. First we went state. I got the actual warrant with the judge that I knew, and we actually ended up we got three search warrants from the information that he had given us. And one warrant that was going to be really, really, really dangerous. That's the one I went on because I knew that the guy was armed, and he had told his crew that he's never going back to jail. He's going to go out shooting.
Oh, jeez.
I kind of wanted to go on that warrant. The name of the group, am I okay to say a curse word or anything?
Absolutely, sir. You are all good.
The name of this organization was FEB, and it stood for Fuck Everybody. Okay.
Well, points on getting the message across in terms of the name,
Yeah,
but
exactly. And there was a news crew following us with the search warrants. They were doing a series called The Belly of the Beast, where they were following housing cops in Harlem. I work in Harlem, and it's my second home. And in this arrest, we actually caught him. His name was KK. And we caught him in the bathroom, going to the bathroom. Mm-hmm. So thank God he couldn't get to the gun. Because he did have a gun under a seat cushion in the living room, on a couch. It was a .357 Magnum.
Damn.
And it was loaded. So we let him get his pants up and took him out of the apartment. We found a safe in there, and there were drugs and guns and money. But I found a marble notebook. And in this notebook, it had everybody that was in the operation listed.
Ooh.
What they did, the times they worked, how much money they brought in for their shift. The only problem was that it was encrypted.
Okay.
So I understood a little of it, but then we ended up calling the FBI. They had an encryption team over there. They dissected it within like 10 minutes. They knew what it was. So they actually wrote it in English for us. And we had 30 people on the surveillance.
Mm-hmm.
And the operation spanned from Long Island, Queens, the Bronx, and Manhattan.
So it was just
heavy duty.
It was just spread out like throughout the whole city. Wow.
Yeah, they were in 3 boroughs and 4 boroughs and the island.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy KK, he was married to the guy that ran it,
Mm-hmm.
the whole operation. KK was kind of his enforcer and a lieutenant. The guy that ran it, his name was Lester, he was married to KK's sister, and they actually got the mother involved, who was dealing in a foot clinic in Harlem.
Huh.
So it was like a family business, and we ended up, it was about a 7-month long investigation. I actually went down to ATF
Mm-hmm.
for the investigation. I was one of the first cops ever to be in a task force called HIDTA, which stands for High Intensity Drug Trafficking Act.
Mm-hmm.
And we ended up securing 30 arrest warrants and search warrants.
Mm-hmm.
We bought over 30,000 vials of crack.
Oh, wow.
We bought several guns. One of the guns was linked to a shooting that I actually responded to a few years before. It was called the Intercontinental shooting, and 7 people got shot, and it was a big deal. And that gun was one of the guns used in that. So then the FBI got involved, and they tied them into the actual shooting. We ended up arresting the 30 people involved.
Mm-hmm.
And at the time, it was in the 90s, early 90s actually. It was the largest crack cocaine case in the Southern District's history for that time.
Mm-hmm.
And we made some journal law with it. And one of my surveillance tapes that I used actually caught one of the lieutenants. He was loading this thing. You remember when we were younger and we would go to the ice cream guy and he would have that change thing on him?
Yeah.
So like he was doing that, and I'm like, I zoomed in. I was in a van that could actually zoom in. You had like a telescope
Right. Oh
scope
my God.
that you can tell with the scope. And I'm like, holy crap. He's loading a magazine to a gun. And it was a huge clip. I'm like, that's not a regular 9. It's probably for a like an Uzi type, or a Tech 9.
A Tech 9, yeah.
For a Tech 9. So I was going to grab him then, but I was with another cop. The agent wasn't with us. So I called the agent and I said, listen, we can take him now. Chances are we're going to get into a shooting. We should try to grab him. And he said, no, let him go. See if you can follow one of the dealers and see if they stashed the weapons. And that's exactly what he did. He handed a girl a bag of guns and magazines. He left the scene in his Toyota, and I followed the girl, and she went into this back room, like under a alleyway in between the buildings.
Mm-hmm.
And she went into a basement room, and I caught her in there. And we pulled out a bunch of drugs, over like 2,000 vials of crack, money, and there was over 28 handguns and machine guns. So I told her, listen, you're going to go for everything unless you start talking. So we brought her back downtown to ATF. and she started rolling on everybody. We
Wow.
already knew it, but she started rolling on the whole crew. You know, she's facing massive gun charges.
I was about to
And I told
say,
her,
like, she would never see the light of day again in her
I
lifetime.
told her exactly what I said. I said, you're done. The minimum you're going to get is 30 to 40 years. This is federal. This is not state. You're probably going to go away for life because she already had been arrested for a felony once in a lifetime.
Oh, so that is not going to help
So,
things.
yeah, it wasn't good. It was because of the amount of firearms that she was going to be in trouble for.
Right.
So she gave everybody up. She ended up testifying for us. She still got 5 to 10 years in, but she was facing so much time. So that was a big case, and it kept me down in ATF for about 2 years. And I was told I was going to be they were going to promote me to detective.
Mm-hmm.
And that was my main goal. I wanted to be a detective. That was the only thing that mattered to me.
Mm-hmm.
And he said, you're going to come back down to the station, you'll work a little undercover, and then you'll go into the detective squad. This should be this should take about 3 months. They didn't give me my shield, and I went into a anti-crime unit, which is plain clothes.
It was like from what I researched, it was from 91 to 93, right?
Yeah, 91, 90, about 94-ish, 95-ish, when I was in plain clothes.
Got you. Which, like, going off of what you're saying actually brings me to my next question. Can you tell me the series of events that led to your incarceration? And more importantly, how the laws that be allowed such a because you're a well-decorated officer from the time, how they could let someone of your pedigree become imprisoned by the very institution that you yourself upheld?
That's a great question. And the problem was when I had gotten in trouble, it was around the same time that Michael Dowd dubbed the most dirtiest cop in NYPD history. They were from Brooklyn, and they would just running wild. They were ripping up drug dealers,
Jesus.
Protecting drug dealers, taking payoffs, doing drugs I'm not trying to bash the guy, but he lit the fuse for a lot of good cops to get in trouble that really weren't doing anything. So when he got in trouble, he decided to talk and testify at what's called the Mullen Commission. And once the Mullen Commission happened, they instituted where we don't care if a cop is taking a free meal, they're getting in trouble, and if we even think they're dirty, they're going to jail.
Mm-hmm.
So they were out to get active cops. I was considered an active cop. Active cops are guys that I call them 5%ers. 5%er cops are guys that the only thing they're not interested in is making collars. I mean, they do their job. They do the other things that are involved with the job. When people are sick, they help them, all that stuff. But their main goal is to arrest people. And that was my main goal, too. My main goal was to arrest people to get into the squad, to then become an investigator and find out who did these horrific homicides and stuff like that. So I went back into anti-crime, but I was already, I was a deep undercover for ATF. And they had taught me how to be really deep, where at times I couldn't go home because the people that we were investigating, I had to worry about my family being killed if I was followed.
Right.
So I ended up buying what's called it's a stash house, and safe house.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually my brother's his building where he lived, and I lived in a studio apartment when I wouldn't go home. You know, I had cases where I was investigating Gotti's son and the Greek mob. So,
damn.
You know, you got to be really careful when you're doing stuff like that.
I would say so, yeah. That ain't nothing to mess with.
No, and when I was with ATF, I was, this is no lie, I mean, I was pretty much going through a door with them every night. for an arrest warrant or a search warrant. So I was in that mode. In the mode that people call it is the cowboy mode.
Mm-hmm.
Where, first of all, I had no supervisor. My supervisors were the agents. There were no sergeants down there. The agents were my bosses.
I was about to say,
I sent in. I was making 100 hours a month in overtime.
Jesus
because
Christ.
of all these search warrants. Search warrant would go. We would do a search warrant between 5 and 6 in the morning. That goes until about 9 o'clock, and then I punch in for the regular day and work until 6 or 7 o'clock at night. So I was in that mode of not really giving a crap about me. I kind of thought I was bulletproof.
Gotcha.
And I'm gonna be honest with you, I honestly thought if I got shot, it didn't matter unless you shot me in the head, I was gonna live. Stupid way of thinking. It was just that mode that I was in. It was in that attack mode, and then they put me back into a unit that, for me, it was more laid back. Not that they were laid back, but it was for me.
Mm-hmm.
So a few people wanted to rest one night. I didn't want to make an arrest because I had watched my daughter the next morning. My partner that I was working with, he couldn't take the arrest. So it's called a collar. So a girl cop said, "Listen, I'm looking for a collar. I'm low for the month." So I said, "Okay, Sergeant." He split the teams up. There are 8 guys in a unit. He said, "Okay, you'll be the lead agent or lead officer on this case, and I'll take the other guys." He asked me, "Where are you going to go?" I said, "Well, I know plenty of spots up in Washington Heights. That's, it's the drug capital of the city.
Yeah.
It's where all the cartels are. Whether people believe it or not, they are factions of the cartels, the Colombian cartel, of the Dominican cartel. You name it, they're there. And they're all on the corners looking for action. They want to sell their drugs, bring you up into the apartment, sell, and that's it.
It's like the Wild West.
It really was the Wild West back then. It really was. It was insane. So I said, all right, I'll bring her up to the Heights. I'll be the undercover. And they just got to kind of ghost me and make sure I'm safe, but don't stay too close. So I was trying to explain to them what to do to my partner and the girl. I said, you got to stay back a block away. Just watch where I go. I'm not going to have a radio. I don't have a vest on. And all I had was my gun and the small of my back. So you're not going to, you just have to watch where I walk into.
The proverbial no man's land, if you will.
Yeah, and wait for me to come out. Don't come into the building. They didn't know how to do them. They had no idea. So they agreed to do that, and I went to a corner spot to a building, and next to the building was a bodega.
Mm-hmm.
And the guy was in front with 3 other guys.
Ooh. All right.
And he came down, he said, "What are you looking for?" I said, "What do you got?" And I had you remember the Gilligan hat from Gilligan's Island?
Yeah.
I had that. I had long hair, Fu Manchu. I emptied a bottle of beer. I put it in a brown bag. And my hat was a Oakland Raider hat.
Okay. Yep.
And I had a black army jacket on. They should have known by the army jacket that I was a cop. So he said, "What do you want?" I said, "What do you got?" He said, "We got snow and China white." I said, "I'm looking for snow, which is cocaine."
Mm.
So, all right, come with me. But so as I'm walking up the stairs, these guys kind of moved that were with him, and I saw they were all on. In their waistband, they all had guns. So, okay, to myself, I got to get in and get the fuck out of there, otherwise I'm going to have a problem. So, are you familiar with what a railroad apartment is? Railroad apartments are very common in Manhattan, Bronx, Brooklyn. So it's an apartment, and so the bedroom and the bathroom and another bathroom, they're on the left side of the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's a hallway, and then on the left side is all those rooms. on the right is the kitchen, and the living room in the back actually faces the front of the street. It also has a fire escape in case there's a fire. So we walk up 3 steps, and he's getting ready to go into the first apartment. There's 2 guys sitting on the stairwell that will lead up to the next
Okay.
flight.
Okay.
And he looked at him, he didn't say anything. And he put the key into the door, he turned the tumbler, and turned there, and I said, you know, you look like a fucking cop. I said, listen, man, this isn't, you're not the only guy out here. I'll go buy from the Colombians. I don't got to deal with you. I'm not a cop. We're either going to do this or we're not going to do it. Tell me now. He said, all right. I believe you. Just about as he's going to open the door, I hear 2 voices coming into the building. It's my fucking partners.
Oh.
And I'm like, what are they doing here? This is not good, because they kind of look like cops. I mean, they're dressed.
So
Stop.
it's quickly falling apart, in other words.
It's already falling apart, and I know it. He asked the 2 guys sitting down, what do you want? I said, we want to buy. So now my partners woke up, and he said, what do you want? We want Coke. So instead of going one-on-one with him in the apartment, where I have a fighting chance if something happens, now I have 2 more guys that I don't know, and I got to protect my partner and my 2 partners. Because I've been in, I was in 3 shootings. I've been involved in crazy stuff. So I'm going, oh my God, now I got 5 people in the apartment beside myself. This is a bad situation. I looked at them like, what the fuck are you doing? You're going to get me killed. I didn't say anything to him. I just gave him that look. So he opens the door. He says, you first, meaning me. He goes to the kitchen on the right, tells them to wait, the 4 other people. And there's a big, you remember the spindles that the telephone companies used to put their wires on?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
Those big things, yeah. So that's the table that he's going to sit at. It's a makeshift table. There's a chair.
Nice.
It was something out of a crazy-ass movie. So there's a loose door, sitting against the sill. So, and I see that on the table there's a scale to weigh the drugs.
Yep.
So he reaches behind the door.
All right.
So I went like this with my back. I went to the small of my back, ready to hold my gun. If he comes out of it, I'm going to fucking shoot. He comes out with a gun. Pulls out like a half a kilo of coke. I go, okay. He's like, all right, what do you want? I said, I want an 8-ball, which is 1/8 of an ounce.
Yeah.
And I had money on my own. I had my own money in my pocket, so I kind of flashed it, but I didn't give it to him. So once he put the coke on the table, I pulled my shield out and my gun, and I actually kicked the table with my foot.
All right.
And I pushed him against the wall where he couldn't move.
Okay.
I pinned him against the wall, and I said, you're under arrest if you move. I'm going to blow your head off. He started speaking in Spanish. I don't understand Spanish. So I tell my partner, get in here, cuff him. I don't have cuffs. I don't have anything. Just my gun. So the girl cuffs him. I'm like, what is he saying? He's yelling that you're ripping him off. I said, could you pull your shield out? And putting my shield in his face, I'm like, I'm the police.
Right.
You're under arrest. He's, make him believe he doesn't speak English. And because I knew he understood what I was saying. She spoke to me earlier and I didn't speak in English. So I tell him in Spanish that we're the police and he's under arrest. My partner, safeguard the area. I'm going to speak to these guys. I'm going to bring them in the back. We'll cut them loose. I want to see if they have any more places we can make collars. That was my stupid thinking back then. Get a better collar.
Yeah.
Get to the to the next guy on the ladder.
Right.
So as I'm talking to the first guy, he says, "We came here to buy them. We're from Dover, New Jersey. Dover, New Jersey happens to be 125 miles away in Jersey
Mm-hmm.
to the bridge, to the George Washington Bridge. And the reason I know that is because I used to travel that way to go to my mother's house. So I'm like, you came here from Dover? You're a long way off." I started grumbling for information. He said, "I don't know anything." I said, "Okay, your lucky day." I patted him down. He didn't have anything. He had money. I said, "Okay, today's your lucky day. Go through the. I can't let you out through the front because it's too dangerous. Go through the fire escape.
Right.
Doors open. Go down the fire escape. It's one flight." As he's leaving, now I hear the front door, and I hear the soldiers that were out front.
Oh.
And it read me in Spanish. And I'm watching. They're trying to kick the door down. Got my partner double bolt the lock. If they break through, shoot first. Don't ask questions. They're here to kill us.
Yeah.
And I'm watching the front of the door, the top, move.
Okay.
I'm only amount of time before they get in here.
Yeah.
So I grab the second guy. I'm like, "What are you doing here, buddy?" Like, we were here to score. But he had a bulge in his pocket. And it looked like a gun.
Ooh.
So I pulled my gun out. I said, "Empty your pockets now. You made the wrong move, I'm going to shoot you." Because I don't know who's working with who. Is he a lookout for them? I had no idea who these guys were. And sure enough, he had a gravity knife that was the blade was 6 inches long.
All right.
And he threw his money on the ground. I said, "Okay, why were you here?" "I'm here to buy." I said, "Okay. You're with your buddy. Get your stuff and get the fuck out of here. Don't come back."
Mm-hmm.
He just runs.
Mm-hmm.
He did not pick up his belongings. So I picked them up, put them in my vest. I had a vest that opened up, and not my vest, my jacket.
Yeah.
And it was hidden. I said to my partners, I said, "Listen, I recovered. The guy just bolted. He didn't take his stuff. I have a knife and money on me. When we get back to the house, just command, I'll vouch for found property. If this mutt comes back in here," I call everybody a mutt, sorry.
Nah, you good. You good.
he can get his money back. Because if you mark the voucher found property, then that person's able to claim their, as long as they can articulate what it is, they get the property back. Money, whatever it is, except drugs. You're not going to get drugs. And I was going to have them keep the knife because it's illegal.
Mm-hmm.
So if he wants to get his money back, he can get his money back. So now the guys that were on the other side of the door, they heard these guys going through the alleyway.
Mm-hmm.
They think it's us trying to escape.
Okay.
They shoot the second guy. They blew him away.
Jesus.
Shoot him right in his stomach. I thought, that's not good. Now I'm thinking, okay, I'm literally 3 weeks away from getting promoted. I just let a guy go, and he got shot. They're going to jam me up for this.
Okay.
I'm not going to get promoted, and I'm probably going to get fucking kicked off the force. Legally, I did everything right because being that they said they were there to buy, they were there loitering for the purpose of buying drugs.
Right.
So as a police officer, you can let a person go.
Right.
For that kind of crime. It's your discretion. So I decided to let them go. Bad decision on my part. So I grabbed that guy. I said, and keep him in front of me. If they start to shoot, he's going to become our shield. I got to protect them. I got to protect myself.
Right.
Like you said, it's the wild, wild west. I want to go home to my kids. I want to see my family.
Right.
As bad as it sounds, yes, it may sound bad, but it was the belly of the beast, and it was a way of surviving.
Right.
And we go outside, there had to be 100 people on the street. And they're all pointing to the corner near the bodega.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I see a guy running with a gun.
Ooh.
I tell my partners, I said, okay, put it over and put the arrest over, have the boss respond to the scene. I take off after the guy. In my mind, I'm going, the department had already snubbed me of being awarded what's called the Combat Cross 2 times. They gave me lower medals for being in actual gunfights.
Mm-hmm.
And I was pissed off about that. So I'm saying to myself, okay, they didn't want to give me a freaking Combat Cross for those. I'm going to get my Combat Cross now. Hopefully the guy will turn, I'm going to shoot. He just had so much distance on me that I couldn't catch him.
Right.
And now I was getting way too far from the scene.
The scene, yeah.
The goodbye scene. So I said, okay, you know what? It's your lucky day, I'm letting you go. I'm going to get back to the scene. And my boss showed up. He's like, what's going on? I'm like, I told you what we're going to do. We were going to buy drugs. He's like, okay, but you're not allowed to buy drugs. I said, boss, I told you we were going up to the Heights and we were going to go do a make-believe buy, not do any exchange for money and arrest the person. All right, but, this isn't good. And when I'm talking to him, I hear a guy moaning on the side.
Was it the dude that, got his, okay, gotcha.
With the black gate, and I look over and I'm like, what's the matter?
Oh my.
My stomach hurts.
Oh my God.
My stomach hurts. He's like, yeah. He faints. His stomach is blowing out. I'm like,
Jesus.
uh-oh. My boss sees him, he's like, and I'm panicking now. Total panicking. Don't know what to do.
I would be,
I
yeah.
just let a guy go. He got fucking shot. I panicked, and my boss says, is this related? I made the mistake of saying no. It's not related to the arrest.
Uh-oh.
So we bring, the guy gets taken away in the ambulance. I bring the rest back, and the girl is taking the collar. In the car, she's going, I don't want the collar anymore. I said, Sharon, I can't take the fucking collar. I got to watch my daughter. Chris can't take the collar. You said you were catching tonight. I'll help you with the paperwork. I'll even print the guy. We'll get him in and out. Don't worry. I don't know how to word the paperwork. I said, I can word the paperwork because I was the undercover. I'll word the paperwork. She said, okay, no problem. So we get the arrest back to the house, and there was a lieutenant on the desk. He was the desk officer. He didn't like me. He hated me because I was collar cop.
Right.
He says, what do you got? I said, Sharon's the arresting officer. We got a guy for sale of drugs. And where's the evidence? When Sharon put the coat back on the desk.
Right.
And where's the scale? I didn't take it.
Okay.
Like, what are you talking about? She didn't take the drugs. The half the kilo she didn't take. She had to vouch her. She didn't take the fucking scale.
So she took.
I got so scared.
So she took practically nothing that could
She just prisoner. I'm like, where's the evidence, Sharon? It's probably at the apartment. I'm like, we got to go back to the apartment and get it. It's not at the apartment. The 30th precinct took it. The 30th precinct was, are you familiar with the Dirty 30?
Yeah.
So all this shit happened when Dowd and the Dirty 30 happened.
Oh, God.
I'm in that, where I was arrested, the 30th precinct covered.
I see.
So they did voucher the drugs. Everything was vouchered over at the 30th precinct. So it was okay because I can get the drugs in the scale. The lieutenant Now the guy's in the cell. The lieutenant grabs me, literally grabbed me by my shoulder. And the girl and my partner, he's like, what the fuck happened over there? IA is all over this, and there's a guy at the 3-4 precinct. 30 and 30 and 3-4 were right next to each other, like a block separated.
Right.
He's in the 3-4 with the detectives, and he's saying, you robbed him. I said, I didn't rob anybody. And I had already put the money up on the desk to be vouched. That was the first thing I did. I put the money. I said, "Lou, this is going to be found property." Found it in the back of the living room. It's $1,700. We're going to vouch it as found property. He's like, well, something happened, and he's telling them that you ripped them off. So we didn't rip anybody off. The money's being vouched. I had already marked the voucher as found property. I didn't know that the lieutenant had called the girl over and told her to double mark the voucher and put it as arrest evidence. So now, if the guy came in to the precinct to get his money, he can't, because now it's arrest evidence being held under an investigation.
Gotcha. Okay.
So I said, why did you? I saw the voucher. I go, what are you doing here? You can't mark it. You can't double. I'm just doing what the lieutenant told me. So a captain that I'm best friends with him to this day. Captain Al. He was the duty captain, so he's covering pretty much all of Manhattan.
Right.
All of Manhattan precincts. Calls me in, he says, Pete, you got a problem. There's a guy up there telling 3-4 detectives that you ripped them off. So there was no rip. We didn't rip anything off. The money's already vouched. Because he had said $1,700. I said, Cap, well, look at the voucher. It's already vouched. It's already sealed up. It's already marked. She stamped the money. Because what happens is when you're in arrest with drugs, anything, robbery, anything that involves money, there's a big red stamp that fits perfectly to the bill.
Right.
And you initial, there's a box on it. You initial the bill. So she had done that. So now the guy can definitely not get his money back. No way in hell. I said, there's $1,700. It's marked. It's already evidence. He says, all right. Is there anything I need to know about the file? Now I'm saying I'm not getting him involved. If I get jammed up, he's my best friend.
Right.
I'm not telling him that I got a guy shot. So I don't tell him. He says, all right, you know what? Let me go down to the 3-4. I'm going to go get this squashed. Sure enough, he's down at the 3-4. He's got it. They're gonna chuck the guy out, and they're gonna throw it away. Because the guy was rambling about other things that they just didn't believe.
Mm-hmm.
And he got squashed. He said, "He's an active cop. He's got the money down at the precinct. After whatever the trial, he can get his money back." So they're ready to cut the guy loose, rip up the paperwork. Nothing is going to happen.
Okay.
The Internal Affairs,
Ooh.
absolutely gunning for me. They were gunning for me for 5 years, because I'll be the first to admit I was heavy-handed. If I thought you were going to strike me, I struck you first.
Yep.
Like I said, I had been in a situation where I had my nose ripped off my face. I was pistol whipped with a .45 automatic, and my nose was hanging off my face.
Jesus
It was
Christ.
so loud that I thought I had gotten shot. That's how loud a crack was when it broke my nose.
Damn.
So from that day on, I wasn't letting anybody even point a finger at me. If I saw that I was striking you or pushing you, at least. Was it right? I don't know. But it's just how I was, and I had to protect myself and my partners. So
I understand.
he tells me, okay, listen, he comes back to the house, station house, my captain. He says, all right, get your books up. You know, Lieutenant Burwell's coming. He's going to be gone. Make sure your books are up to date, memo books. That's where you keep all your logs in for the day. Sure enough, he calmed Lieutenant Burwell, and the first thing he says, "I got your ass now."
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I'm like, "Oh, really?" He goes, "You can forget about your fucking gold shield. I got you." Okay. Give me your books, all the paperwork. So he took all 3 of our books, kept them. He didn't make copies or anything. He kept the actual books. He was supposed to make copies of the books and give them back to me and my boss. So about a week later, I'm not hearing anything. Not hearing if I'm going to be promoted or not. My captain, my command captain, and the duty captain out. My duty captain loved me. My command captain loved me because he loved that I was making an arrest. He said, "Listen, I got to take you out of plain clothes. I got to put you back in uniform, and you're not getting promoted." So I'm like, "Why?" He goes, "This just came down from headquarters. Your promotion's not happening, and they don't want you in plain clothes." I'm like, "Okay." Now I'm fucking pissed beyond belief. I said, "Okay, no problem." He goes, what squad do you want to be?" I said, "Put me in my old squad. At least I'll have tenure where I can get whatever vacation I want." And I was like, "All right, whatever. I don't care if you jaywalk, you're going to."
Mm-hmm.
That's how I feel. Being a housing cop, the housing police itself, the old people in charge, the brass, they wanted the cops making arrests in the projects.
Okay.
Which was fine. I was a narcotics cop.
Yeah.
Narcotics were being dealt on the street and being brought into the project. They understood it, they just didn't want to hear it. And that was my fight with them, where they kept saying, "You're making too many fucking off-project collars. You need to make collars on project, but we're taking you off patrol completely." Okay. So I actually ended up getting into another shooting 3 months later, where a guy pointed a gun at me 4 times when I was chasing. I gave him 4 warnings. If I thought that he had fired a shot at my partner, but my partner actually fired a shot at him and slipped on ice. So when I'm chasing him, he kept. It's only if I'm running from you, you're going to turn back to see your distance.
Right.
But when you've got a gun in your hand is going back with the turn. So I'm yelling at him. I had a nickname on the street. It was Batman. That was my nickname. Not from me, it was from the drug dealers that they called me Batman because I was always on the rooftops watching drug dealers and grabbing them.
Gotcha.
So after the 4th time, I said, "If you keep turning on me, I'm going to fucking shoot you." The 4th time, he completely wheeled on me, and I fired my shot. I fired a shot at him. It actually ended up hitting him in the foot.
Okay.
I was on the run. I thought, I was running and shot.
Well, yeah, logically, yeah.
Yeah, some stupid man going, "Wow, I just shot a moving man. That's not bad." Stupid ass that I am. He completely got away from me. I just couldn't catch him. He was way too far ahead.
Dang.
He was he had a half a block on.
In spite of having a bullet in his foot?
What's that?
In spite of having a bullet in his foot?
Right now, I'm a block and a half away from my partner, who I thought got shot. I didn't know that he fired the first shot. I thought the guy did. And I knew that he was on the ground. I said, "I go any further, I don't know if my fucking partner's bleeding out.
Right.
I got to get back to him." So I let the guy run where he wanted to run. He ran to the hospital, actually. And I go back, my partner's standing, I'm like, "Where are you hit?" Like, "I'm not hit, I slipped on ice." I'm like, "Dude, I saw you get shot and fall." He goes, "No, I slipped on the ice." I'm like, "So did you fire a shot, or did the guy fire a shot?" He goes, "I shot at him," because he pointed the gun at me. I'm like, "All right, we got to call the boss, we discharge our weapon at someone." I was indemnified for that. The district attorney, they cleared me on that shooting. Because it always goes before a grand jury
Right.
to see if they're going to indict somebody. So I got cleared on it. IAB brings back the guy. They find the guy.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, I had an open 61 on the guy.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow they tracked the guy down from the hospital. The guy says, I didn't have a gun on me. I had a beer bottle. It wasn't a beer bottle. I saw the gun.
Right.
So did my partner. And they said, okay, we want to take a statement from you. It's another thing we can get him on. Shooting at an unarmed man. And being off project. So I was down at court on a narcotics case, on an unrelated narcotics case. I had 3 DAs that I was very good friends with in narcotics, and they handled all my cases. They took their turns. They would ask each other, when was the last time you got him? You're up. Next time you're up. So two of their names were Matt. Their first names were matching Matt Diven and Matt Schwartz. So I saw Matt Schwartz, and he said, listen, after we're done doing this case, meet me at Fellini's for dinner. Mm-hmm. There was a bar across the street from the courthouse that had cops, correctional officers, and lawyers, and DAs went to.
Gotcha.
We'll have dinner. I need to talk to you about something. So I called in to the commander, said, listen, I'm going to take the night off. So I knew right away it was bad. Because he's never said, I need to talk to you. And I met him there, and he said, listen, your name's coming up at the Special Investigation Unit. They're going to try to indict you. And I said, for what? He told me that when the guy got shot. I'm like, oh, shit. So about 3 months later, I'm told my PBA lawyer calls me down and says, all right, listen, you're going to be indicted on Friday, which pissed me off already, and I'll tell you why. And I said, what do you mean I'm getting indicted? He says, yeah, they're going to indict you, and we got to work out a bail package. Because they want $100,000. I'm like, $100,000? I said, fucking murderers don't get that. Rapists don't get that. So where am I supposed to come up with $100,000? Because you got to come up with property and $10,000 cash. So I said, why are they doing this on a Friday? Are they hoping that I don't make bail so they can throw me in the tombs with these guys for the weekend? Tombs is where they house guys that had just gotten collared, and they're waiting to see the judge. It's kind of a dangerous place.
About to say appropriate name.
And for a cop, it's even more than it's just crazy. I said, they're hoping I don't make bail, aren't they? I said, yeah. I made bail, and the judge that was the indictment judge, I'm on a first name basis with this guy. Mm-hmm. I brought him in the past 40 warrants that were all good.
Okay.
The guy liked me so much that when I would bring a warrant in, he wouldn't even, he would tell me, you don't have to bring your confidential informant in. You've gotten enough good, usually you got to bring the informant in. They have to swear out the warrant with you. Mm-hmm. So, and they have to get a number, and then they're part of the state. But he had trusted me so much with my warrants, he said, you no longer have to bring your CIs down. So he looks up, I'm in a suit, he goes, hey Pete, what do you got today? What kind of warrant? And I'm like, I don't have a warrant on your case. The freaking DA flipped out. He's not here for that. He's a case before you. Before he even looks at the paper, he goes, listen, I know him. I'm on a personal friendship with him. He's an honest, loyal cop. What are you doing to him? What's going on? Read the paper, and he's got a $100,000 bail system. So it's just like, that's not happening. If anything, I'm gonna it's called an ROR, released on your own recognizance.
Mm-hmm.
No, he signed a bail package, which I did. He goes, all right, fine. Let him go to the cage. Give him the $10,000. He's out. I want him out. He's not going through the system. Not today, not on my watch. So that judge actually tried to keep my case. Even though he was just a hearing judge, he wanted to keep the case. Hearing judges are different from trial judges.
Gotcha.
Now, this was an assistant district attorney that's handling my case, not the actual DA.
Right.
He goes to the actual DA and says, listen, you can't let this judge have this case. He's going to let this guy walk. He's not even going to listen to this case. He's going to cut him loose. So they take the case away from that judge. They put it in what's called the wheel. It's a wheel system. You put the name in, you turn the wheel, and they pull out a judge's name. And that's the judge that gets the case. So my hearing judge was Judge Andreas. Mm-hmm. He's still an appellant judge. He's the head of the appellate division now. Mm-hmm. He wasn't back then. He did what's called a MAP, my Huntley, and my Wade hearing. He sided with the state. Said, okay, so you're going to go to trial. Do you want to play out? Or do you want to go to trial? I said, I'm going to trial. I was stationed 25 years in jail. They had me for an armed robbery with larceny and disorderly conduct and falsifying business records. The business record was my memo book because I put myself in a place that I was at, but not at that time. They said I falsified my business record. I was off by like 15 minutes.
Jesus Christ.
It was a fucking witch hunt. So now the dirty 30 happens.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And that already had happened. So now I'm in, like, I don't know, maybe 4 months before I'm going to go to trial. I'm with another girl cop, very good friend of mine, at my lawyer's office. And he says, phone rings. He says, hold on a second. This is the ADA of your case. He puts the guy on speaker. Mm-hmm. I swear to you, the first thing the guy says hello to him, obviously. He says, listen, I just want to let you know that Thron would have never been looked at. Nothing would have happened to him legally. This would have been handled at the department level if the 30-30 never happened. Being that it happened in 30 precinct, we're putting him in with that bunch.
It's not right.
I'm standing looking at my fucking lawyer going, they're going to put me with those guys? How is that even normal? How is that even right? Now you're saying I was completely dirty. These guys were all playing out to be dirty. None of them took their charges to trial. They all pled out because they knew they were on tape. Actual stealing, and it was insane.
So, like, you were just, like, unfortunately, like, caught up in the crossfire with all that. They were looking for, the Model Commission was looking for scapegoats, too. They wanted to make it like they were arresting as many people as they could. Right.
So he hangs up the phone. I'm like, not Ben. Ben's my other lawyer. I said, what are you doing here? He goes, well, being what they're doing, I don't think I should represent you. Now, I'm a delegate for the PBA. I was a delegate for 5 years. I represented cops that got in trouble for 5 years. I know this guy because I had many meetings with him for other cops. Mm-hmm. So what do you mean you're not going to represent me? He goes, yeah, we decided to go a different way. I go, what the fuck does that mean? He goes, well, we're going to represent the girl and your ex-partner. I didn't even know they were in trouble. Well, they're not. We're just representing them. So I have to find a lawyer. My first lawyer says, listen, with your record, I'm going to get this thrown out.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So the trial is it's 3 days away.
Mm-hmm.
The judge that did the hearings, he recuses himself. Says, I don't want to do this trial. It's going to be a media trial. I'm getting ready to be an appellant judge. I don't want anything to do with it. I don't want to be involved with it. Fucking recuses himself from it. Doesn't put my name back into the wheel system like it's supposed to go. He handed it off to another judge who hates cops. Hated all law enforcement. He's the judge that did the Marla Hanson trial. You remember that?
Yep.
The jogger in the Central Park
Yeah.
case. And he actually told her that if you hadn't dressed so provocatively, you wouldn't have been raped.
Jesus.
He got sued.
And he was your like judge? Oh, Jesus Christ. Oh.
So my lawyer caught 3 of the witnesses lying. Each time he said to the judge, Your Honor, the case has to be dismissed. They perjured themselves. They're lying against my client. You picked a jury, we're going to let them decide. I'm not throwing the case. The girl cop gets up on the stage, on the stand. She admits she lied. She admits that she did it to save her job and get promoted to detective in IAB, because IAB scooped her up.
Right.
Now she works there. My lawyer, again, he's like, Your Honor, this is ridiculous. Now you got a police officer that admitted that she fucking lied. You got to throw the case in. I'm not doing anything of the sort. I'm going to let the juries decide this. You and Mr. Thron pick the juries. This is what's going to happen.
Oh, he doesn't even have the balls to like call you, or the respect to call you officer, Thron.
Thank you, because that's the next thing. That's so cool that you said that. The next thing my lawyer says, Your Honor, can you, with all due respect, can you address my client as Officer Thron? I'll do nothing of the sort. He's a criminal, and I'll just call him Mr. Thron.
Oh, go fuck yourself.
Or defendant.
God damn. That's even worse. Jesus.
I'm like, I'm done. There's no fucking way I'm going to get out of this. So I took the stand. I was on the stand for 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
Now, mind you, I had my whole family in there, and well over 100 cops from different commands that knew me, agents. The two DAs that I told you about from narcotics, they showed up.
Yeah.
And the DA that was trying to get me to convict me, he turned around and waved to them, and they're sitting next to my mother. Because they knew my mother. They knew my whole family.
Right.
They were at family functions and everything. They turn around and they're like, well, fuck you. You're trying to fuck my good friend here. No bullshit. They go back to their offices later in the morning to have lunch.
Mm-hmm.
Shit you not. On each of their desks is a letter from the district attorney saying, if you show up at Edith Thron's trial again, you will be fired, and I'm going to make sure you get this ball. This is coming out of my mouth too easily to think that it was even made up. You just can't make up shit like that.
Yeah.
Not even the best fiction writer can. So I see a juror on the elevator when they're actually going to go in to deliberate, before they're going to deliberate.
Mm-hmm. She
smiled at me. I smiled. I didn't say anything. She got off. My brother turned around and says, Pete, she's for you, and I think a lot of the other jurors are for you. I hope so.
Mm-hmm.
to be in trouble if they're not. So now the judge is charging the juries, whatever they are, with all the laws that I'm being up on trial for.
Mm-hmm.
And is the penal law that I knew the penal law back and forth. It's a thick book, I just knew it back and forth. Front page to back page, whatever, I knew it. And this thing called Black's Law. That's the extended version of all charges and subdivisions that cops don't know about. It's just for lawyers.
Okay.
So the judge is charging the jury, and he kind of knew I was going to get off on the major charge, which was a Rob 1. He knew I was going to beat it. I swear to God, he reaches over to the stenographer's table, which has a glass of water on it, picks it up, drinks half of the water, puts it back down, turns to the jury and says, "See what I just did? I just stole from her, and I didn't have permission, but then I returned it to her. I didn't have permission to steal that, drink that half a cup of water." So what he was doing was he was tying in, being that I vouched the money,
Yeah.
it's a little form of stealing, which is ridiculous. And then I'm guilty of stealing money or whatever I vouched over 500,000 times. That's what you do. You vouch your property, evidence to get secured.
Yeah.
And it get brought to trial. That's what cops do. And that's what the district attorneys use to present their cases.
Mm-hmm.
So my lawyer turns around and he goes, "You just fucked us." I'm like, "How?" Because I thought it was funny what he did. He goes, "He just used black law as a subdivision of black law." Because when he was charging him, I didn't understand the charge.
Gotcha.
I'm like, what the fuck is black laws? Because it's another book of subdivisions that you weren't charged with. He added it. I said, how the fuck can he add a charge? Because he can do whatever he wants. He's a judge. So they go out to deliberate. They're back 45 minutes later. So my lawyer said, this could be good. Maybe they threw at it all the charges. If they find you not guilty of the robbery, they have to find you not guilty of everything else.
Okay.
Sure enough, the lady stands up, she's the floor lady, and he says, "How do you find the defendant on Rob 1? She goes, "Not guilty." Already he's infuriated. I can see fire in the fucking
You can see like a vein on his forehead and everything like that.
Yeah, his fucking head looked like it blew up.
Nice.
So, okay, how about on the count of larceny? Guilty.
Oh shit.
Non-violent crime. On the charge of official misconduct, guilty. Charge of documentation, falsifying documentation, guilty. Now all of them are all E felonies, non-violent.
Mm-hmm.
I should have gotten probation.
Right.
Really, it's just like a misdemeanor. You don't go to jail for it.
Mm-hmm.
So he says, "Okay, Mr. Thron, I'll see you back here in a month for sentencing." So I go back, get a bunch of letters written for me. My lawyer thinks he's going to give me probation. I had a captain and lieutenant, the captain I told you about that I was good friends with, and a lieutenant who I used to drive, and a bunch of cops. They all write great letters to me.
Mm-hmm.
I go back to get sentenced, and I asked, he goes, "Do you have anything to say before you get sentenced?" I'm like, "Yeah, I was wondering if you could take the time out to read these letters that were written." "Sure, I'll come back in an hour, we'll go get something." Hour passes, we go back. He's got the look of a fucking devil on his eyes. He's beyond fuming. Smoke is coming out of his ears.
Yes.
Oh, fuck hell. What do I do now? He says, "Ride." Will the defendant rise? He goes, smashes his hand down on the desk. If there's one thing that I will not tolerate is when the police brass back a dirty cop. There's a lieutenant and a captain that wrote you letters basically saying, I didn't do my job and I falsely. The captain actually wrote a letter saying that Officer Thron, he told good about me. He was a very active cop, just a cop that was looking to make sure that nobody was committing crimes and dealing on his turf. Being that he was arrested, I no longer can be a captain with the police department. Effectively, I'm putting my retirement papers in. I can't live with the fact. I can't stay silent. I can't stay in silent purgatory without speaking the way I feel about this.
Mm-hmm.
Lieutenant Joe Hack, who's a great guy, he's a chief now.
Nice.
He said the judge hated all cops. Officer Thron was the best collar cop that I've ever encountered. He was the most loyal and honest cop I've ever been around. The judge is convicting an innocent man. So being that this police brass and all your people that wrote your letters, it didn't change anything that I'm going to do today. So right away I knew I was going to jail. So I'm going to sentence you to 2 to 4 years.
So what was it like being in prison with, and I did research this a little bit. They knew you were a cop on the inside, right? So what was, like, that had to have been, that you were literally entering in the bowels of hell in a certain sense.
When I went in first in Rikers Island, now mind you, it was right after I had gotten arrested, right when I got convicted. I didn't realize the news person had taken a picture of me standing with another detective talking to him.
Right.
He was a friend of mine. And the paper said, judge slams police brass for backing cop thief.
Oh, God.
I'm on the second page of the newspaper. Full fucking page. Picture and all. They put me in PC, but the judge fucked with me the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Fucked with me where he tried to get me hurt. So now I'm in my own cell. I'm in my own cell for 6 hours. Bob comes out and says, we're putting you in a dorm. I'm like, you put me in a dorm? I said, there's fucking like 40 people in there. I said, okay, I'm not getting out of there alive. Well, this is the orders we got. So when a new person goes in, the guard will yell out, new meat, to the guys in the dorm. This guy says, new meat. He's on second page of the newspaper. They got a newspaper in there. So I go up to the floor that I'm going to be on. Swear to God. I was in good shape then and good fighter. On the other side of the gate, there's about 14 guys standing. And they're waiting for me. And they're holding the paper. And one guy's screaming, you put me in here, motherfucker. You ain't getting out alive.
Fuck.
So I'm like, listen, there's no way you can put me in here. I'm going to get killed. He's like, you got to go. I'm like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Do you see this? Now my eyes are welling up with water because when I get really pissed off, my eyes water.
Right.
I wasn't crying. I was pissed. So I fucking pushed the correctionals.
Oh.
Walks down. I'm like, fucking charged me with assault. Now you can't put me in there. Charge me again.
All right.
He says, I'm not charging you with anything. You can't show them that you're afraid. So I go, wouldn't you fucking be afraid? I'd be stupid not to say I'm not afraid. I don't know what came over me, because I knew I wasn't getting back by these guys. Something came over me, maybe it was God or whatever. Gave me the courage of a lion. I turned around, walked up to the gate before they opened, and I said, listen, I didn't put any of you motherfuckers in here. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen, but I guarantee you I'm taking 4 of you with me. I guarantee you that. It was this big black guy, really became a good friend with him.
Jesus.
Tall guy, tall, skinny guy. His name is Country. And he's in the back, standing. He's standing next to a Spanish guy.
All right.
Spanish guy is the head of he's the president of the Nietas.
Oh,
The gang of Nietas.
all right.
So he says, make a park and make 2 walls. He's right. He didn't put any of us in here. So if any of you motherfuckers touch him, you're going to answer to us. So the Spanish guy controlled all the Spanish people, and the black guy controlled all the blacks. They opened the door. So they did what they said, did what they were told to do. They go up to the guy Country. I'm like, listen, man, I ain't giving you my fucking sneakers. Dude, I don't want your sneakers, man. It took a lot of balls what you did. And you were right. You didn't put any of us in here. You're one of us now. And that was probably the only, not the only scary thing, but that was definitely one of the most scary times. And being that I was in a dorm, I slept with one eye open.
Mm-hmm.
And I was getting transferred to, about 2 weeks later, I was getting transferred to downstate. This is how close I got with Country and the Spanish guy.
Mm-hmm.
Country says, he's 19 years old, I'm 28. He says, listen, I see how you look at your pictures of your kids, what kind of father you are to them. I don't have a mother and father. You think you can adopt me? I'm like, it was really weird, man. I was touched, but really, like, how do I answer this?
It's a very interesting request, to say the least.
Well, it's meant like me asking you, can you adopt me? And I'm like, listen, Country, it wouldn't be right for me to do that because we have 9 years between us. So I'll always be your brother. I'll always be your good friend. Whatever you need, if you need something, I'll be there for you. All right, I understand. Thank you very much. Spanish guy calls me over and says, listen, I sent the kite out. Kite is a note to the other prisoners
Mm-hmm.
throughout the jail. And we took a vote. We want to know if you want to we want to make you an honorary member of the Nietas. They are the most powerful Spanish gang
Mm-hmm.
in the jail system. They control the jails.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, listen, man, I'm honored, but I can't do that because I came in here alone. I don't want to rely on anybody to help me physically in here.
Okay.
But I appreciate it, and I hope I didn't offend you. He goes, you didn't offend me, man. I'm okay with that. He said, but can you do me a favor? I can't get to anybody outside. Could you make some kind of phone call to somebody? My daughter just broke her eardrum. She's in such and such hospital. Can you have somebody go check on her? I did. I had my ex-wife check on her.
Mm-hmm.
She checked on her the next day. I made a call. She got to do me a favor. Go to this hospital. Make sure. My ex is also a police officer. Make sure that his little girl's okay. Somehow it got back to him because I left the next day. Got back to him that I did that. I would see people, other Nietas throughout the jail system, and say, such and such says hello, we got your back. I didn't want anybody to have my back, but he remembered what I did. And I'd have to say the other most, I did get stabbed during a fucking football game. a month before I was going home, chopping down toothbrush into one end.
Yeah.
Then you melt it down, scrape it, make it into a shiv. I thought the guy punched me. And he was a big guy named Ox. He's like, that's how we roll from Buffalo Cop. And I was friends with the guy the whole time, but he knew I was going home. I'm like, I'm not a fucking cop. I'm a fucking comic like you. But meanwhile, I know I still got blue blood in me. I'm still, in my mind, I'm a cop, but I got to become a convict to
survive.
I had no choice. So, fuck, man, I think that motherfucker broke my rib. I had heavy stuff on because of the cold. My cellmate was also another cop, and that's a cop. I'm like, man, I think that fucker broke my rib. So I told him I can't go down to the medical unit because then they won't let you go home. If you have an injury, they don't want you to say, you go home with that injury, you could sue them saying they did it. The jails did it. So I can't get home. Take off my jacket, I'm fucking bleeding. I got a puncture hole in my stomach.
Jesus Christ.
And it's just, it's not like shooting out, but it's pouring.
Right.
I'm like, dude, we gotta fucking stop the bleeding. I can't go to the infirmary. It's not happening. Now I was very close with one of the other guards that I worked on the bottom floor, the solitary confinement place floor. I was friends with this guy, Officer Noble. He'd actually given me some metal utensils, nothing sharp. He gave me a spoon to eat with, good spoon. So I'm like, Matt, you gotta fucking cauterize this. It's the only fucking way now. I was in bad shape back then. I was doing 1,000 push-ups every day, 300 pull-ups. I was in ridiculous shape. I wish I could be in that shape now. I don't want to do that. I'm like, you gotta fucking heat that spoon up, the back of it, and put it on my stomach, bro. So I'm not doing that. I'm like, do it? You gotta do it. He heats it up. The first time he just touched me, and it just sizzled the blood. I'm like, do it again and hold it. First of all, it burnt like shit. He holds it down. I'm like, oh. He gives me a book to put so I can bite down on it.
Right.
I can smell the flesh. And finally he pulls it off. He's like, it's black. He's like, I'm not bleeding anymore. I'm like, all right. So I'm going to stay in tonight. I'm going to try to spit this off. I took some aspirin. Just dealt with it. It got better like within 2 weeks. It hurt badly.
I would imagine.
I'm a week away, man. I'm in the yard training with this guy, this school guy. And he's twice the size of me, 6'4". He ran a gang out in the street, a robbery gang. And we're lifting, and I'm doing flies with 60-pound dumbbells. And I'm done. I shoot up, and I put them on my thighs, and I let them roll to the side. I do that, and I miss my fucking knee. I miss my leg. And I drop the weight. It fucking falls on my left big toe. Oh. And I know I broke it. Motherfucker. He comes over to me, clamps my mouth like this, puts his hand on my head. Shut up. Don't say a word. And just nod if you understand me. Because you can't fucking say a word or you're not going to go home. You probably broke your foot. You're going to have to deal with it. You're going to have to walk on it. In 10 minutes when they call us, they'll go back in. He's like, we're good? I'm like, yeah. So now I got to walk onto the side of my foot and my heel.
Oh, God.
I get into my cell, and Matt's in there. Matt, I think I broke my foot. He's like, What the fuck are you talking about? My toe's broken, man. I know it is. I'm wearing boots. I'm wearing the steel-tip boots, which made it even worse. Takes it off, and my fucking toe just blows up. It's demolished.
Oh, God.
He's like, all right, we got to put a new sock on. I'm going to double sock your foot. We got to fit it back into the shoe. And you got to keep your shoe on for at least a week until the swelling goes down.
Mm-hmm.
I slept with my boots on for a fucking solid week. When I was going home, I was literally walking normally.
Mm-hmm.
The last thing I want to tell you is, for this at least, it's 3 days before I go home. Now, I told you, the bottom floor is the solitary unit. And I'm working down there. Porter, it's what's called a porter.
Uh-huh.
And there were these two dirty correctionals. Dirtiest. They would beat prisoners. They were just bad guys. They didn't like me. I didn't like them. So I hated when one of them were working.
Mm-hmm.
Now, both of them were working. Just the 1 hour that I was down there, they broke my balls. So they're working the midnight, not when I was there. My buddy Matt and I were listening to the show called The Shadow. You remember that show? Shadow? It was in the 1930s.
I'm not familiar with it.
It was like a superhero thing, and it was like only the Shadow knows. He was a crime fighter.
All right.
So it was cool listening to the old time shows. All of a sudden, we hear this person screaming right under us. The heating grates were in the floors.
Right. So
you basically can hear anything and everybody on your floor and below you.
Mm-hmm.
The guys, and I know the guy in the cell because I've seen the guy hundreds of times at the visiting room. His family, he was in for DWI. His wife and kids visit him every week. Nice guy, small guy. He had a problem with another prisoner in the visiting room. The visitor pinched his wife's ass. So he fought the guy. He's getting ready to go home in a month. So they said, okay, you're going to do your last month in the hole. Okay? I always tried to give him a little extra food and stuff like that. I hear him screaming, don't hit me, don't hit me. It sounds like a fucking hurricane. Shit is bouncing off walls. I can hear them like this fucking bed getting tossed back and forth. Him screaming, punching. I hear punches smacked. Then it completely goes silent. So I'm like, fuck, man. And we got to be careful how we're talking. Because you bet. Sorry, excuse me. So I'm like, man, they fucked that guy up. It's completely silent. Now I got to go to work at 5. Wake up at 4 o'clock, get ready to do my push-ups. Coroner's office is there. State police.
Oh.
Fuck. I got to go down there now at 5.
Mm-hmm.
His cell is a crime scene. It's taped up, crime scene. This guy Halpin, Officer Halpin, he was another asshole, comes out and says, it's fucked up about so-and-so. I'm like, yeah, what happened? He really hung himself off the doorknob with his sheet, his bed sheet.
Huh.
What? Yeah, he hung himself.
Huh.
First of all, I know the guy's going home in a month. I know the guys, I don't physically know them, I've seen them, the wife and the 2 kids. You could tell these families were solid. And this guy was maybe 5'6", 5'7".
Yeah.
I know I'm going home in 3 days. I'm like, wow, that is fucked up. All I want to do is get off the floor, this floor that I'm working on.
Right.
I don't want nothing to do with it. I finally go upstairs, And at night, we're talking, me and my partner, my soulmate. And I tell him the story, not knowing that these two guys that did it are working downstairs.
Oh,
And
God.
they can hear me.
Oh, God.
So I'm being released on Tuesday. Sunday, the sergeant comes up, who we were pretty close with because he was a cop buff, love cops.
Mm-hmm.
And he actually called us by our first names. He knocks on, he says, open up cell 1. We were in cell 1.
Mm-hmm.
Tall guy, like 6'4". Just get up. I'm like, the hell is this shit? He's like, listen, Matt, who do you want to bunk with when your friend here leaves? So right away, I'm like, okay, now I'm his friend. Matt tells him, he goes, okay, go outside. I want to talk to him. He starts fucking poking me in the chest. He goes, let me tell you something, motherfucker. You're a convict. You're not a cop anymore. Don't play detective. I don't care what you heard downstairs. Forget what you heard, or I promise you, I'm going to throw you in a hole where nobody's going to fucking find you. He said, you want to go home? I said, yeah, I want to go home. And forget about what you heard. I said, I don't even know what you're talking about. That bothered me that I did that. Fucking, it stayed with me for 20 years. That I did not stick up for this guy. I got 2 kids. At the time I had two small kids and a baby. I got to go home.
You were in a very deadly prison. You were in a very deadly situation. And most importantly, like you said, you got a family. You did what you had to survive. Like, I mean, let's be honest.
It really bothered me, man. It just stuck with me. And I kept telling Matt before that, I said, listen, I want to write a book about my career and what happened. And I had already known the cover. I said, I want to put my shield being shattered by the judge's mallet behind.
Mm-hmm.
So, jail cell. So he's like, well, that would be a good cover. I said, I'm going to write it one day. And that's how I became an author 20 years later. I didn't want to write it when my kids were in school and grown up because I just didn't want to subject them to people knowing that I went to jail. And the kids, I don't want them being bothered at school, you know what I mean?
Right. Now, it's obvious where the the nonfiction, your nonfiction books have been inspired from. Tell me, where do you get inspiration from your more fictional pieces?
Well, when I actually did my first podcast on my second book, which was about the second part of May, the people that were doing the podcast, they loved the story, and they said, listen, you're right, well, have you ever thought about writing fiction? And at that point, I really didn't. I was pretty much just going to write those 2 books and say, yeah, that's it, no more. But I said, you know what? And one of the guys that was doing the podcast, he goes, you could be the next Gene, which I'm not. You could be the next Gene Status and know much about police procedural. It's not going to be in his league, but maybe you got a good idea there,
Mm-hmm.
So I thought about a story and I wrote, the 3rd book was Manhattan Jack, which was about a serial killer. And that did okay. It didn't do great. It was the only book that didn't make the bestseller list. And I think it's because of the people I was going against.
Right.
Like I was going against Patterson, King, and all those guys. You got to have a really good, and you got to be with the big 5, big publishing companies to go against them the right way.
Exactly.
I'm an indie publisher, So my next one was I love do a lot of studying on archangels and the fallen angels,
Right.
demons. So I did that book. It's called Everlasting Chains, and that was a book basically another war between
Good and
the
evil.
archangel. demons. And the main character was fathered by Lucifer and Saint Michael. They were screwing the same woman, and their seeds interlocked and got her pregnant. So he became Nephilim, and he had some of Lucifer's powers and some of Michael's powers. And in the book, I actually made Lucifer good. Because people don't realize he was the first angel ever made. Yeah. He's an archangel, but he's also what's called the seraphim. And they're the highest of angels. They're the highest rank. And they're the bearers of light. They guard the throne of God.
Mm-hmm.
So I made that book. That went #1. And then I decided to write about other cops. That was called Second and On. That features 16 other cops and their careers. And then I wrote the second part of The Everlasting Chains, which was called She's With Us. I gotta look back there. That one #1, and that's about a girl that gets possessed by a demon, and the son of Lucifer and Michael has become the exorcist, or an exorcist for the church.
Okay.
And the exorcist for heaven and hell.
Okay.
So that did pretty well. I love writing about that kind of stuff. And then I decided to do a new series called Legends of the NYPD.
Mm-hmm.
And I picked to write about one cop, and I write about his career.
All right.
And I just released both of those books. I released Band of Valor 4 months ago. That went #1. That was the first book. And I just released last week Fear City Cop. That went #1.
All right. Do you have any upcoming projects?
Yeah. So I actually just wrote 3 anthologies in a matter of 5 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
The first one is Hush, I Know Your Secret. That's about this group of 4 guys in Texas. They end up going on when they were just graduated high school. They're big hunters, and they started picking off over the borderline, started shooting immigrants for fun.
Jeez.
And they end up, one of them ends up getting caught for a crime, and he wants to tell on these guys because these other guys have become really dirty. One's a lawyer, one's realtor, and one's a senator, and they're all combined. They're doing some really shady shit.
Right.
And he tells the lawyer friend actually represent him. He says, "Listen, I think we should come clean and tell everybody what we did when we were younger." He's like, "You crazy? You're going to get us killed even thinking like that." It goes down to the wire. It's a pretty good book. I think it's a good story. And the one I just finished 2 weeks ago was a story about, it's a fiction, but it's actually based on my father, my mother, and my brother and sister, myself.
Mm-hmm.
My father was a foot doctor. And when he was in medical school, he was vying to be the valedictorian with one other person.
Mm-hmm.
And it came down to the last 3 weeks. He developed gallstones, and he was in massive pain. My grandfather, his father, was also a doctor.
Mm-hmm. And
he went to his father, and my grandfather told him, "You got gallstones, you got to get them removed." And he said, "No, I'm not getting them removed. It's going to be too long. It's going to mess me up getting the valedictorian." and because he would have been out for about a month.
Right.
Because back then, they really cut you open. It's not like now. So he got addicted to Demerol. He stole his father's prescription pad. This really happened. And started writing himself prescriptions with his father's name on it. And he started shooting up Demerol. He ended up being the second in his class, but he never stopped using.
Mm-hmm.
And he became a functionable, working drug addict in the medical field, no less. And then it just got completely out of control. I'm pretty sure that he was using heroin. And I was born, 11 months after I was born, he took his own life. So I wrote a story about him. And the one I'm doing now is it's based on me taking revenge on everybody that put me in jail.
Ooh. Oh, that'll be the what makes it into the movie.
Yeah. Black Book of a Killer.
Now, real quick, so this podcast also likes to talk a little bit about pop culture a bit. So, one quick question. Which law TV shows or even police procedurals, or if that's how you word them, are the most accurate, and do you have a favorite?
Great question, and definitely the most closest is Hill Street Blues.
I'm not familiar with that one.
Yeah, so it's one that was in the 80s, and they're in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it's about the uniform patrol guys and some plainclothes guys. The reason I like that one the most is they did not shoot people. If you had an episode where one cop got into a shooting, it was a lot for that season.
Like that was the grand climax of it.
Compared to like Blue Bloods, he shoots Danny, he shoots a person every week. That doesn't happen. That kind of stuff doesn't happen. I'd say my favorite is I'd say Hill Street Blues.
Mm-hmm.
And going back a long way, Beretta.
What decade was that?
That was in the 70s. He had a parrot.
I was about to say it sounds familiar. Yeah.
Yeah. Robert Blake was also one of the kids in the Little Rascals.
Oh, no joke.
Yeah. Huh. He actually ended up killing his wife, and they threw him in jail. He went to trial for it, but he beat the charges, but he did kill his wife.
Damn.
Yeah.
Irony.
Yeah.
And real quick, how would you like people to follow you, or even do you have a website that they can buy your books other than like Amazon or Kindle or anything like that?
The website's not up right now, but they can go on Amazon.com and look up my name, and they can go to my webpage. I don't sell on my webpage. You can check me out on Facebook. It's Pete Thron on Facebook.com, or my author page, which is Pete Thron Author. My books, I have a pretty big following with authors and police. A lot of cops follow me. But the next book I'm going to be working on after the anthology is the second book of the serial killer.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm going to do a few more books on the NYPD series.
Okay.
And I'm going to actually do a motorcycle biker book.
Ooh.
That should
be
I do a lot of studying for that one. That's a genre that it's a very big genre, but if you write wrong in it, they're not going to buy your book. So I have a lot of research to do on that. I've worked till 2024, to the end of 24. I probably have about another 10 books I have to write.
So at least you won't be bored.
Yeah, and you know what it is? I don't do, a lot of people do outlines for books. I don't do that. I think of a book that I'm going to do, and I'm the type of author that, because I do my own covers. I don't draw them, but I get an idea and then I'll look for some kind of photo that fits that cover. I'll buy the photo so I own it, so I don't have any kind of copyright infringements. And then I'll send it to my illustrator, and then they'll bring the cover to life. I wait for the cover to get done, and then I start to write, because somehow I'm able to draw more off of the cover when I'm writing. And I write as I go. I develop the story as I'm writing. There's never a plot. I may know how I'm going to kill somebody or end the book, or how I want a certain situation to end or plot, but once it starts, it's just...
You can't stop.
Never like me. A lot of people say, well, do you do your books by speaking? You can do that speaking.
Yeah, like audiobooks.
And I can't do that. My fingers have to be on the board. And I guess I have to be looking at the board to think of something.
Makes sense. Well, folks, you heard it all today. An absolutely epic tale in American history. There was tragedy. There was betrayal. There was a little bit of dark comedy here and there, but ultimately it is the tale of one individual who had some of the hugest courage and an unbreakable spirit. And with all that being said, folks, flat out, we got nothing. Mr. Thron. Sorry. Would it be more Mr. Thron or R.I.P.? Thank you so much for coming on to this podcast. This is I think this is going to be the longest cast to date, and every single word you said, absolutely amazing, every tale, and I'm so honored to have you here. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me on the show. It was a real pleasure to be on with you.
All right. And folks, if you would like to see more of what Life on Saturn Productions has in store in the future, including projects regarding YouTube or comic books or any kind of art commissions, please follow Life on Saturn Productions on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. And if you would also like to see personally what I provide in terms of my own art, please follow me at Catalyst Jost on Instagram. That is CATALY5TJ05T, or Daniel Evans Jost on Facebook. And with all that being said, folks, please keep your vibes dope, keep your zen flowing, and as always, peace.